What's going on, Soul Nation? Ginger Prime here with a very special PSO2 State of the Game. Joining me, special guest Aya, aka Dancing Finder, Senior Community Relations Representative for Square-Enix. Longtime Phantasy Star fan. I actually was hanging out in your original PSO stream, and we were talking about it like months ago. It feels like maybe even years ago. This whole year is a little bit crazy, but why don't you go and take a moment to introduce yourself, and let's go ahead and dive in and talk about some PSO2.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Aya, or otherwise known as Dancing Fighter for sure. So I actually was a partner on Twitch prior to getting my job at Square-Enix. And one of the games that I that was just a blast to showcase for me was Phantasy Star Online 2. I mean, 1.
Yeah.
Anyways,
No, yeah.
but it's, you could tell how excited I am to talk about 2 though, right? So
oh, man.
Yeah.
We were originally talking about it, and it was like the odds of it actually happening because like all the collabs, all the things from Japan, and I was like, yeah, like that's good. That'd be nuts. And it was like maybe 6 months later, Phil Spencer got up on stage and said, "Hey, it's happening." And I was like, this is incredible. I swore on we were live streaming it, and I dropped an F-bomb because I was just like, oh my gosh, I did not expect this to happen.
Yeah, because it just felt like in 2012 or 2013, whatever, way back whenever they first announced like PSO2 was actually going to launch, but they didn't say anything about America. I was just like, maybe like next year or something, like we'll get it, because it's just sometimes that whole thing where Japan gets it first and then we get it later, but not 8 years later.
I'm used to that. I grew up waiting for games to come into the West. So I was like, all right, Dragon Quest is out there and maybe we'll get it. And then you always kind of hoping, and then like trying to find every little bit of information, and finally the translation came across, and then you got to play it like, and that's obviously that time has gotten a lot shorter in recent years. But how surprised were you when you heard the announcement?
Oh, I think I tweeted at least like 5 times about it within the hour. Like I was just so hyped because I cried a little bit. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I'm a crier, so it's okay. Like, it is an emotional experience.
Yeah, because like I even started a Tumblr, because I had separate Tumblrs back then. I was just like, okay, when 14 drops, I'm gonna like record my characters like journeys and stuff. It's kind of like an RP thing almost, but not really. But I started one for Phantasy Star Online 2, and then I was just like, I can't wait to make my character. And what do you call it? I was pretty much ready to go. Like as soon as whenever it would drop, I totally forgot about that blog until now. So I can't do anything about it. But yeah, like I know a lot of my friends came over to play Phantasy Star Online 1 on the GameCube because that one had multiplayer.
Yeah.
But then like something always happened where my memory cards would get corrupt, and I never hit level 200, and it always made me super sad.
I was kind of like, I was telling some friends, I was like, I thought it would have been a really good, just kind of like as a part of Microsoft's back compat program, if they were like, hey, PSO2 next year, and now you can play like PSO today, like as a part of a back compat thing, even PSU, but we ended up not getting that. And I get it. That's like, I'm just happily spending, theoretical dollars from their development team to say, hey, bring this very niche game that people are playing on private servers. So that's what I went and did a little bit. I went and spent some time on some private PSO servers just to like remember it, because it's one of the things I didn't tell you any of this before the show, but one of the things I realized is that Final Fantasy IX dropped on Game Pass, and I was like, oh yeah, it's such a great game. So I start playing it, and I go, oh my gosh, I have no memory of this. Like I have a nostalgic memory for this game, and that has influenced it, like in terms of whenever like people do natural rankings for like games and things like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to replay these now as an adult, just to refresh that. So that's one of the things that, and same thing with PSO. It's like I have this nostalgic memory, and it's fun to see how that lines up with like my interpretation of it today. Now, as a kind of a show note, just for anybody who's listening and wondering, obviously you're a senior community representative, at Square-Enix. Now, we're not going to be talking about that in this video, but what we're going to do, and if ISO, we're able to get that schedule worked out, we'd love to bring her on for the Crystal Core radio podcast. If you guys want, let me know what questions you would have for her in this regards in the comments below. That way we can kind of curate that and make that more of a community-driven podcast. So I know that somebody is probably, if they didn't make it to that point in this video, might be like, why didn't you talk about Final Fantasy? It's like,
yeah.
like, well, maybe one day. But yeah, today we're going to be focused 100% regarding Phantasy Star, 2 in this case. So obviously we waited 8 years for this game to come to the West. Did you get tempted and go play on the Japanese server at all?
Totally.
Yeah.
I totally did. Like I said, I was ready. I had a character previously ready to go. Also a Newman, as I have now.
Yeah. They're the best. They're the best.
Because like back then I played as a Hunawhirl in PSO1. So I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to change now. Like I need to keep like who I was back then into this new era of Phantasy Star Online. And so, I don't know. It's just, sorry. I got so wrapped up in like thinking about what I was going to say. I totally forgot the question.
It was just talking about your experience with the Japanese version, right?
Okay.
Well,
okay. Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm so embarrassed. Anyways, but yeah, it's just, I had everything ready to go. I tried it. I even had those like English patches like in there just to see like, okay, like I can totally play this game. But then I think after about like a month or something like that, I couldn't do it anymore. And I was just like, I don't want to constantly have to like patch this.
The patching process was like such a nightmare. ArcSlayer, when they brought out their patching tool, which ended, we'll talk about that here as a part of the NA release, but that's where I was like, this is okay, good. Now it's easier to be able to get in. All you have to do is beat the captcha boss and you can play. And it seems like obviously that's something that I regret not putting more time into the Japanese version, because once they announced it, then I was like, oh, I'm going to go check it out and see what it's like in Japan and see if it's something that I'm going to be excited about. I'm assuming yes, but I waited because I was like, I saw all the hoops that people had to jump through. And I was like, even IP bans and things like that was all going on. So it was like you needed a VPN. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep hoping.
Yeah, exactly. Cause sorry, like kind of switching tracks, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead. Whatever.
Cause when they first released it in Japan, I kept telling myself like there were other titles like Blade and Soul was like a Korea specific MMO title for the longest time, but then it eventually came over here. So I think when like it came out years later, I think it took like 5 or 6 years for that title to come over here, something like that.
Yeah.
And when it finally came here, I think that revitalized my hope that someday Phantasy Star Online 2 would come over here. Yeah. So I feel like, especially since that happened, that really, I was just like, you know what, I don't need to play on the Japanese servers for PSO2. I'll just wait, because if Blade and Soul can make it over here, I'm very certain it's just a matter of time till Phantasy Star Online 2 comes over.
Yeah, they just recently announced like all the content that essentially their content roadmap with the goal of getting onto parity, and so I just can't even imagine just the amount of work that is going to entail. Namely because it's that you like you said when we were always like hanging out on your stream, like there are so many licensing deals. There's so much that Phantasy Star like just integrates with, a common game we both love, Final Fantasy being one of those.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like I'm laughing now because we're all just kind of like hoping for a date for Xbox, but at the same time it's like, well, I guess if we might be fighting Odin on Xbox some way, one way or another this might happen. But with the fact that it's like they've announced this like aggressive roadmap, meaning like episode 4, 5, 6 part 1, and then sometime next spring, like their goal is to get it on parity. And I'm like, that is like I was really surprised by that announcement just this year alone. Let's see here. So obviously I think you and I have a very similar relationship with the Japanese version of this game and our hope for this game coming over. But talk to me about your experience now that the game is here. Like, there's no worry that it's going to like not show up. You know, you're not testing it out and then it's like, well, they decided to cancel the project.
Yeah.
It's here. It's live. We're both playing it. What's your experience been so far?
Well, to start things off with, it wasn't like the best start personally for me because I've had issues with the Microsoft Store. I feel like the issues that I'm going to talk about are pretty much what everybody knows, just problems like launching the game constantly trying to reinstall itself like 50 million times.
Taking up all that hard drive space too.
Yeah.
Because it was like, that's what we found out. I had 160 gigs that the game was like, this is mine now. It's like, oh man, this is a pain.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. But I eventually figured everything out. And ever since, like, I pretty much applied this like one fix and like learned the way that I guess like file permissions work. I think I managed to get everything working again pretty well. I updated it like this last week.
Yeah.
And I was really scared because the first update that we experienced as PC players, it messed up my game again. And I was just like, oh no, what am I going to do? But I eventually figured it out, but I was really paranoid. I was just like, oh no, an update is happening. What am I going to do?
Yeah, that's why you cross the fingers and hope. The one of the things that we found, and in case you get hit by it, if the game isn't launching, you want to go and pull up the game like from the start search, right click app settings, do a repair, give it like 10 minutes, and then that seems to also help out a bunch of people where where you don't have to do a full uninstall. So that's something we've been telling people. They've been having success. We've seen a lot of people move over to the tweaker, especially during that time. And people are like, Brian, why aren't you using the tweaker? And it's like, well, I mean, if I'm updating you guys about the game, I want to update you about like the official version. Like, is it working? Is it crashing? Are they having problems with it? Because most likely the majority of people might not actually feel like going to kind of like, hey, let me go and hack this game. Probably if you played on the Japanese servers, you're probably very comfortable with using the tweaker. But I'm sure that there's some kids out there that are like, I want to play this game. And then it's like, hey, here's all these additional steps that you might have to take to be able to play it. So besides the PC issues that you had, obviously, we were almost in it with this just a month itself. If possible, can you actually talk about like when like these kind of issues come up from your experience, like how perspective from a community team representative's perspective?
Oh, like what we would do in the situation where all these things happen. Well, I would assume that everybody is all hands on deck, like trying to figure this thing out, because it's just like when Final Fantasy XIV launches, all the community team members are there, like looking out, watching streams, looking at social media, looking at Reddit. So it's a matter of waiting. Like, that's really all it is, because it's just the information has to process on the West side first. And then that stuff has to go ahead and reach Japan eventually. But then it's just like, you can't just like regurgitate all like these links and everything towards like the development team. So it's a matter of like properly finding all like the vital information and then getting that translated properly so that when the dev team sees it in Japan, they're just like, okay, maybe we need to do something about this. But I feel like since this is on the Microsoft Store, it might be slightly different, because I just feel like dealing with the Microsoft Store also has a lot of different complications.
Oh my goodness. This isn't the first time too. And I think one of the things that this just brings up more adamant, because it is a black eye for this launch. And I think I think the game will be just fine. The content wise, the engagement, people are really playing it. And the comment that I saw that I think was the most true is that somebody said, I wish I wasn't able to actually have created my character and played, because then I could have walked away. But having experienced the game and realized like, wow, this is something that is a lot of fun. It's amazing. I'm going to put in that time and effort. And so we've heard some nightmare stories of people spending like 24, 36 hours of troubleshooting. But eventually, like one of the guys that I just did a podcast with, he spent like, I think the 36 hours, he ended up having to reinstall Windows fresh, but he got it working. and he's so
Yeah.
and he got his nemesis weapon. Like he's just like all about the game, and I'm so happy
Yeah.
that he's having a good time with it. Let's see here. So obviously in August we're going to see the first content drop for the game with episode 4. Is there anything out of that, like that patch, that stands out as really exciting for you to see?
Battleship Yamato, because I've heard about it so much from all of my friends and everything who have played on the Japanese servers, and like even the ones that are just like so hype and following. Because I have one friend in particular that just loves Phantasy Star Online 2 music, and I was just like, "Did you even play Japanese?" And then he was just like, "For a little bit, but I really liked all the music." So he has like all this music in his head. So every single time, every so often, he would just be like, "Hey, Aya, check out this really cool song," and I'm like, is Battleship Yamato again? And then sure enough, there it is. But I went and saw gameplay for that, and I was just like, this is gonna be wild. This is gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
But I just think the things that we got teased already right now in the current patch for Las Vegas, I was just like, this does not look like Vegas, but I do get it. And they do straight up say welcome to Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. But, thankfully, Vegas doesn't have like psycho clowns with chainsaws walking down the street. Because if it did, like, I'd be like, no wonder we're not going back to Vegas for FanFest or anything like that.
Gemini just there waiting for you. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this again.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, it's interesting to see as they've kind of like our version has been a little bit hybrid because Vegas is here early. That was typically, I think, episode 4. So we also got Summoner, which was traditionally episode 4. As the schedule was rolled out. So they've kind of been able to kind of mix and match, but the whole like festival, like the Independence Day celebration, like that's unique to America, which is incredible. Have you seen some of those? I keep calling them glamours because that's my language for them, but have you seen some of those? Those are like, what do you think about it?
I can't stand the Uncle Sam outfit. Like it's so good, but it's so bad.
But he's so ripped.
It's so that's why it's like so good, because I'm just like, I hate this, but I also love it so much at the same time. And like seeing the Statue of Liberty and then the Christmas trees with like summer designs, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But you know, it's unique to us.
It is.
So I'm embracing it. But when the patch dropped and I was finally able to play it, I just kept yelling America every like 5 seconds. It didn't even matter what I was doing. Was I doing a photon art? America. Was I healing myself with a monomate? America. But it's just been really fun so far. So when the game actually works, I think the one complaint that I actually have is that I recently finished episode 3 in its entirety, but I had no idea that the boss was supposed to be a level 80 boss, and our cap is level 75. So the whole time I was actually spending 3 hours trying to kill this boss, trying to figure out why is this so difficult, like compared to everything else. Like it was really, really, really difficult.
Well, big jump.
Yeah. And so when one of my friends like told me after I had fought it, they're just like, I didn't want to tell you this while you were playing, but we're not supposed to be able to do this successfully. And so it kind of made me feel better, but at the same time I wanted to cry inside.
Well, I mean, I have to commend you for like putting in the work and going after that, because that's impressive. Yeah,
it was fun still, but because it's just like I had to figure out what exactly like I was doing that was wrong, and the timing was so strict and your resources were so limited. Mm-hmm. But it was fun.
We just started running some ultimate quests, and that's and that's where it's like I have a 75 hunter. My goal right now is I'm trying to get a level a day on my main, so I'm almost done leveling ranger, and then I'm going to move on to force and just continue to work down the classes until they're all at cap, and then the cap raises in August, and then I continue down. But it's going to be a lot easier in my mind going from 75 to 80 rather than from I haven't leveled this yet, I'm taking this all the way up to 80, 90, 95, etc. But one of the things that like we jumped it on my hunter, and I was like, that was where I saw the real gap in, oh my gosh, like I am not geared properly, I am getting hit by way too many things. I love this. This is where like, okay, cool, I've got all this content down on lock. it's, we're just winning. And all of a sudden I was like, now I have to put in the work. And so thankfully, like I was able to play for a little bit, and then then I got the call where it's like, okay, time to end stream. It's my wife says, all right, I'm done. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
and get off. But outside of that, like I was like, okay, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted to find. Now
Right.
it's how do I go about it? So one of the things is like on our side, we're on ship 2. You're on ship 2, correct? I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was looking at the Nemesis weapons, and they were like, for the sword, it was like, at the time when I looked, it was like 20 million. I was like, okay, cool. I'm halfway there. And, but then it's like, okay, great. I can, every Meseta drop, like that's progress. Every like, or maybe it'll drop off of ultimate for me. Like there's where it's like, okay, how do I make this a part of my just weekly kind of like struggle to go in and try to get myself some good weapons, get myself some better armor, continue to grind them up. I love that whole that loop and that cycle, because it's just been really a real joy to experience, and also at the same time feeling like, well, I should have been saving my money, but I was I was spending it on identifying rares. Oh well. So this fall, episode 4 is going to be followed up with episode 5, which is scheduled for the third quarter based off of the math. If they're treating a quarter like a calendar quarter, the only option in my mind is September. So it looks like possibly episode 4, August, 5, September. And then the third quarter, they're shooting for episode 6, which should, by that point, we should have Phantom and we should have Hero. That means a Twal, and maybe there's even a fourth class that it's being teased right now in Japan. But out of that for this year, like, is there anything from like the new classes that you're interested in, or are they going to tempt you away or are you going to continue with your main? And I didn't even ask you, what are you maining right now?
What's it called? So I actually am having a lot of trouble trying to figure that out. So, I leveled 4 jobs to 75 already.
That's impressive.
And what's it called? I'm working on getting Force up. Currently, and Force is like a job I don't want to play. I feel like I got 46 levels just from like EXP tickets and quest turn-in experience. And then I was just like, oh no, I have to finally play this job. Like, I'm actually kind of worried. But I play a bouncer, but I'm having trouble trying to figure out if I like fighter a lot more, because a lot of people have been coming into my channel and telling me that like, oh, it's very rare to see a knuckle player. And I'm just like, wait, really? Because like it's so fun to me. And like, if you know what my main is in like Final Fantasy 14, it's a monk. So where am I at home? It's with both my fists. So when I found out the proper photon arts that I really like using with Knuckles, it just felt so fluid, and everybody was just like, it's really cool to see somebody using this job like in a fun way and like as efficient as possible. So I was just like, oh, well, that makes me feel good. So it's more just I feel though that bouncer is a little bit more convenient and efficient because you get to support your team and fly around everywhere, especially because the bosses are huge. And I feel like that's 2 things that fighter lacks. So I think currently I'm leaning more towards being a bouncer than a fighter, but I love fighter.
That's good. Yeah, I haven't really seen many fighters. My friend who I do the podcast with, Soro, he's been working on fighter. He just finished Hunter, and he's just thinking Hunter sub fighter, but he's just leveling up his fighter right now. And the first thing that we noticed is he was spending a lot of time on the floor. So we were just calling him a dragoon, because it was like, it's like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, so he switched his sub to Hunter, and then his survivability really kind of helped pan out. But it was just like, that's what I noticed, because I first started leveling Gunner, and I was like, okay, after I did my Hunter, and I was dying. I was like, I need to change a pace. Like, this is getting frustrating. I'm going to come back to Gunner. And so I then switched over to Ranger per request, and I've been loving it. So it's just like, okay. But for me, Force is that. Like, that's what I played in Japan. That's what I was a Force back in the, like, PSO. Like, that's where I love casters by default. But I've been trying to stay away from that, because I figure, like, well, when I land on it, I might just not get off that train. And so it's like, oh, I want to try some of these other ones. What I'm testing out right now is how many jobs or classes can I have at 50, but, and for each 75, like, so right now the theory is if I have 2 at 75, all of my subs will be at 50. And thus, every job I take to level would start at 50 and take me to 25 using a sub job level. We'll find out. I'm getting pretty close to 75 on Ranger, and I think I only have a few more, but we'll see. We'll have to wait and see on that. So,
sure.
let's see. PSO2 has a so much crossover appeal in Japan, and we obviously talked a little bit about how we got our North American focused content. Is there anything like, if you could dream any dream, what would you want to see for American, the American build? You can definitely go to Japan, but like something new that isn't obviously Independence Day. Would you want to see anything special?
I mean, there's ones that I definitely want to see like from Japan,
Okay.
but then I guess in terms of that's actually really hard because I feel like everything that they've done in Japan already is what I want.
Yeah.
But I think one that I haven't seen yet is Jet Set Radio. Like I would like them to bring Jet Set Radio because like how could you just tease me with these rollerblades like before this American thing, like during the wedding event, I think it was. And what's it called? Those rainbow rollerblades. And then I'm pretty much just looking like this Jet Set Radio character. Like people would literally come to my channel and just be like, the character looks like a Jet Set Radio character. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. But I really just want them to like officially have an event based around that collab. It would be so cool. I think it'd be so sick. And hearing that music, I would never get tired of it. So
with the Jet Set Radio would be a really excellent one. I never even thought about that. I if I was picking out of like the Sega's back catalog, I love Shining Force. I think that would be cool.
Yes,
I think that'd be really cool.
Yes.
That they would. Man, I haven't played a good Shining Force game. I like in a long time. It's just like I just remember hours and hours in Shining Force as a kid. If I was just gonna like be nuts and just kind of pick at random from kind of like my Nerdicon, I don't know. Like it would be really cool to see, and I'm probably gonna get roasted for this. I would love to see something like Supernatural TV show. Like if they're ever going to integrate some kind of like horror element or what have you, but purely American in that regards. Because
wow.
You know, we always get into the thing that we're like the first 5 seasons were the best seasons. You know, like that's really what the series was, and then after that it just became the Sam and Dean How Many Times Did They Die show. And did you ever watch any of the of that show?
I have not. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I have not.
No. I actually appreciate the truth. I don't know why that popped in my head, because that was just something I was like, what would be something like really American that would be just over the top ridiculous? Because that's just how I think would be kind of cool. But that's just me. I know probably people are gonna be like, what the F, Brian? that would not work. It's like, I don't know. Prove me wrong. Prove me right. Who knows? So. What's the best Square-Enix game right now that people should play before patch 5.3 drops?
I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake has been amazing, but if you're looking for something a little bit more classic, and if I could dive into my own personal collection, Brave Fencer Musashi.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing voice acting. It's really fun, and there's less turmoil and seriousnness involved and more of like a comedic play happening in that game. And I don't know, like just the character, he's just a little brat, and he's so charming at times, but he's always just like, okay, well, I guess I got to do this. So he's just constantly throwing himself into all these things, and he is like the hero. Like he is Brave Fencer Musashi, but I believe like there was a second one that happened. I feel like the first one is very superior in a lot of ways. So if you have a PlayStation, or I'm not sure if it's available on PS4 as like a title that you could pick up. But yes, if you can get your hands on Brave Fencer Musashi, that'd be cool too.
That's a real classic.
Yeah.
My friend let me borrow his PlayStation. My old PS4 bit the dust, and I was like, well, I'm gonna wait to the PS5 because it was at this point where I think it was like 14 months. If we assume November release, I was like, it's 14 months ago from this November. My PS4 died, and I was like, well, I could get another one, or I could just take the money that it would cost me for a new one and just put it into a PS5. And so that's one of the things that I had to hold off on was the 7 remake. And so then my friend Randy, he was like, hey, I'm not playing my PlayStation right now. You want to play 7 Remake? And I said, yes. So I reorganized my whole desk, got the PlayStation set up, and hopefully I'll spend some time with that this week playing through 7R, because I was like, oh, man, I'm very excited about that. And so, yeah. Anyway, that, I think, was there anything PSO2 related that you wanted to share? Any kind of final thought in that regards?
Please, if you're playing it right now and you're having troubles logging in, it's worth it to figure out those problems. So please, if you're listening to this and you're just wondering how things are from the perspective of somebody who's able to get in a lot, just, it's worth it. Just go through the trouble, please. I know it's terrible currently, but they're doing their best to fix it. And yeah, it's a blast.
And and it's rumored, obviously, more PC platforms coming soon. That should hopefully help play, people, and we'll give you guys updates on that. Aya, where can people find you? Obviously, you stream and you do all kinds of cool content. How can people find you?
So you could find me primarily on twitch.tv/dancingfighter, one word, or you can find me on Twitter, tweeting about various things, both serious and goofy, at dancing_fighter. But yeah, I think those should be the primary 2 places where you can see some of that content. But yeah.
So I'll be sure to include those links in the description of this video for you guys to go check out. Be sure to follow her, go say hi, check out her streams. She's a fantastic content creator, fantastic community rep. So, you're doing great things over there. Especially when we got to all hang out at the media tour like this, like a year ago. It feels like 10 years ago after 2020 in that regards. Anyway, congrats on 475s. I got to get to work. I got to catch up.
It's fun.
I'm like, yeah, here I am on second 75, feeling good. And it's like, no.
No, I'm just highly addicted, so you're totally fine. Everybody should go at this at their own pace.
My goal, like I said, is like I want to try to hit a level a day. Just like I want to log in, do my dailies, hit a couple of advanced quests, and then boom, that should be a level, an easy level a day. And I think then by the time, like I said, before the episode 4 drops, I should be in a really good position with a couple of different options. I do want to say you have humbled me in regards to your skills as a Street Fighter. So back at at FanFest, oh my gosh, guys, if you haven't, she was fantastic, and I was just like, my goodness, I thought I was good at fighting games, and I was like, I have obviously got got a lot of ground to catch up, but I just wanted to give you that compliment. That was a fun event. That was a fun event. But anyway, Aya, thank you for joining, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your evening. So,
me too. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your weekend as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was really happy that you were able to take the time, because at the end of the day, like, Phantasy Star is here, and despite the issues, it's just too much fun to talk about. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. If you be sure to follow Aya on social media, on Twitter and on Twitch, where she streams. And also don't forget to leave your questions for her in the comments below, and we'll hopefully get her back to talk a little bit more Final Fantasy focused if you guys are interested in that on the Crystal Core Radio podcast. For Ginger Prime, my name is Brian. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic day. I keep forgetting that I have the camera on me in this episode. So it's like I keep looking down to the left. I don't know why. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. This video is sponsored by me. If you guys like podcast and long form content, I hope you check out Ginger Gaming Radio. Link will be in the description of this video below. So if you're still watching this video, thank you, and check out the new channel for more content, and hopefully you enjoy. Thank you.